In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, Excellencies, academic colleagues, it's a pleasure to be with you. The COVID-19 pandemic is a hyper event, an event so disruptive that it marks a rupture in global, local, and national history between the past and the future. It plunged our interconnected world into turmoil, uncertainty, and unprecedented risk. It exposed existing vulnerabilities and shortcomings in our systems in normal modes of contact. It wreaked havoc on lives and livelihoods, particularly for the poor and disadvantaged. It posed an unparalleled challenge to our scientific and technological capabilities, an existential threat to our medical professionals who have been on the front lines of a war for which we were not prepared. The pandemic also challenged all of us in positions of leadership around the globe to be better leaders. It forced us to rethink how we lead, to be more effective, more efficient leaders. It forced us to listen better and act quicker. All of this has been true for Afghanistan. The virus arrived in Afghanistan at the end of February in Herat province on the border with Iran. The virus peaked in June with an infection rate of 76%. As of September 23rd, we had recorded 1,446 deaths from the virus. The unofficial count could be higher. Today, with the virus on the decline, the infection rate is fluctuating daily between 6 and 25%. As a government, we moved fast, knowing that our most vulnerable would be hit hardest by the pandemic. Our focus was those living in poverty, those who would be affected worst, both from the virus and the adverse economic effects of a lockdown. A little over a month after the virus had reached our borders, I had articulated a way of moving forward in a 7-page document responding to the coronavirus. In this document, we forecasted the trajectory of the virus in 5 phases: acknowledgement, diffusion, adversity, relief, and recovery. But more important, right from the beginning, our strategy differentiated between expectations of our people as citizens, demands of the market and economy, and capabilities and resources of the government. We also looked at the most affected segments of the society, those living in poverty, and differentiated between the impact of the crisis on the structurally poor and the situationally poor. I'll come back to poverty later, but first I want to discuss the leadership challenge and our very simple approach to leadership in times of corona. We had to listen to our fellow citizens, understand the problems within their context, and then design and implement programs and measures to respond to those expectations. That was not only a technical challenge, it was also a leadership challenge. How did we approach the leadership challenge? The office of the presidency for any democracy is a nodal point where a people's and a nation's aspirations and frustrations interact and converge. It is a place where people look for fairness, empathy, and delivery. The presidency is also a listening post, provided the one holding office learns the art of listening and makes a discipline of systematic and appreciative inquiry and learning. This listening post became the locus of data, experiences, and expectations that informed our COVID-19 response. I have had the privilege of traveling repeatedly to all the provinces of Afghanistan. I used to average meeting 5,000 citizens a month. Since COVID, I've been to 7 provinces and we turned consultations to an electronic listening system. It is important to understand the difference in perspective of men and women, young and old, urban, rural, and pastoral. A great characteristic of the Afghan people is our sense of equality in public interactions. People have often said to me, in one way or another, we've come, we've spoken, and we expect results. If you don't act on what we've told you, we will not come back. I'm privileged that they keep coming back. They know our limitations, but they also know that we intend to deliver and do deliver. What have the Afghan people expected from their leaders during this particular crisis? They've asked us to turn what we've heard into effective programs that address the roots of their problems and produce results. From the medical overhaul to the most immediate needs. The first need was food security. For the first time in our history, urban areas were exposed and we delivered baked bread to all our 34 provincial capitals in the city of Kabul. Agricultural productivity needed to be maintained and trade, because we rely on value chains, needed to be enhanced. I'd like to particularly single out our Central Asian neighbors who did not impose restrictions on the flows, and consequently food prices only increased between 5 to 10%, and we've been able to keep it going. We have one of our most ambitious programs under implementation today. We're providing, under the program of National Food Program, assistance to 4.5 million families or households that covers 90% of the population of this country. We intend to create the direct mechanisms of assistance to the poor so they would be able to make every decision within every household for themselves. The Afghan people have now returned to work and the economy is moving forward, but our vulnerability is substantially increased. Our other problem is that we have a constant flow of refugees. This month alone, close to 80,000 of Afghans have returned from Iran. In the last 19 years, 10 million of us have returned, and in the last 5 years, 4. Counting and keeping track requires dynamic tools, and that's where the multi-poverty dimension index becomes very necessary. We reorganized our entire system of budget, reprioritized and articulated changes in existing national programs that have coverage to every citizen across and aim to have that coverage. I'd like to thank the Asian Development Bank, the European Union, the IMF and the World Bank, and our bilateral partners for their assistance. And I'd like to thank our neighbors, first and foremost Central Asia, then Iran, then Pakistan, that initially closed its borders but subsequently opened them, and China and others. Poverty is multidimensional, an historic problem in Afghanistan. It certainly did not start with COVID, because 40 years of conflict have produced constant poverty. To respond to the challenge, both structurally and situationally, we've identified the following priorities. First, we need to reach the poor as directly as possible. And within 18 months, we hope to have an electronic ID for every citizen of Afghanistan and create the mobile money system to be able to transfer resources directly to them. Second, we have to enhance our citizens' assets. Key to this is increasing the productivity of land, labor, and water. Third, we must align the goals of market building, state building, and nation building. Fourth, we must utilize our immense natural wealth with about 320,000 potential of renewable energy that we've started, and $1 trillion worth of mineral resources. Fifth, and most importantly, we have to make peace and continue to build peace. MPI's utility lies in both providing a solid basis for policy formation and monitoring of policy implementation. We have therefore decided that our National Statistics Information Authority should use and update it regularly. We have identified the critical ingredients of the future we want. First, citizenship as a notion where men and women are equal members of a polity in society. And second, the political framework of the Republic where leadership is regularly renewed through the will of the people and held accountable for the mandate given to serve them. Together, we the people of the United Nations can and must deliver on the promise of the Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Thank you for enabling me to participate in this very important gathering.